Rodrigo Duterte, a man known for his brash style and bold promises, ascended to the Philippine presidency in 2016. He captivated the nation with his vows to eradicate crime and drug use. Duterte, a former prosecutor and mayor of Davao City, ran on a platform that resonated with a public weary of violence and corruption. His tough-talking persona and pledges for swift justice struck a chord. He promised a ruthless crackdown on drug offenders. Duterte vowed to make the Philippines safer, even if it meant resorting to extreme measures. Duterte's approach resonated with a segment of the population yearning for a strongman leader. They saw him as a decisive figure who could restore order. His supporters believed that his unconventional methods were necessary to combat deeply entrenched problems. However, his rhetoric also raised concerns among human rights advocates. Duterte's statements seemed to condone extrajudicial killings as part of his anti-crime strategy. This sparked fears of widespread violence and a disregard for due process. Upon taking office, Duterte wasted no time in launching his controversial war on drugs. This campaign, marked by its brutality and disregard for human rights, would become synonymous with his presidency. Police and vigilantes, emboldened by Duterte's rhetoric, launched a wave of killings across the country. The streets of impoverished neighborhoods became the battleground for this so-called war. Thousands of suspected drug users and dealers were killed, often without trial or due process. The Philippine National Police reported thousands of deaths. They claimed these were the result of suspects resisting arrest. However, human rights groups and international observers painted a different picture. Evidence suggested widespread extrajudicial killings. These killings were often carried out with impunity. The victims were overwhelmingly from poor and marginalized communities. They were denied basic rights and had little recourse to justice. Duterte's brutal crackdown drew sharp condemnation from the international community. Human rights organizations accused him of crimes against humanity. The United Nations called for an end to the killings and urged an independent investigation. The International Criminal Court, or ICC, opened a preliminary examination in 2018. This was followed by a formal investigation in 2021. The ICC sought to hold Duterte accountable for the thousands of deaths under his watch. Duterte responded to the ICC investigation with defiance. He withdrew the Philippines from the Rome Statute. This is the treaty that established the ICC. Duterte argued that the ICC had no jurisdiction over the Philippines. He framed the investigation as an attack on Philippine sovereignty. Despite his efforts to obstruct justice, the ICC continued its investigation. In 2023, the court ruled that it had jurisdiction over crimes committed during the Philippines' membership in the ICC. This paved the way for potential charges against Duterte. Duterte's legacy is a complex and controversial one. He remains a popular figure among some Filipinos. They credit him with reducing crime and assert that his tough tactics were necessary. His supporters argue that he brought much-needed change to a country plagued by corruption and lawlessness. However, his critics view him as an authoritarian leader who undermined democratic institutions and violated human rights. They point to the thousands of extrajudicial killings and his attacks on press freedom as evidence of his authoritarian tendencies. Duterte's presidency has had a profound impact on Philippine society. His war on drugs instilled fear in communities and eroded the rule of law. The culture of impunity he fostered continues to threaten human rights. Duterte's legacy serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of democracy and the devastating consequences of unchecked power. His presidency will continue to be debated and analyzed for years to come. Only time will tell how history will ultimately judge the man who promised change, but at a terrible cost.